and welcome back to the Little Big Sister podcast. I'm your host, Eva Joelle. Thank you for joining me here today as we read some of the internet's best Reddit stories and we talk about life and sociological perspectives and everything under the sun. It is Pride Month, babes, and so today's stories are Pride themed. I want to make it very clear that this podcast is LGBTQ plus AI. LGBTQAI plus. Safe, you are safe here with me. I am a queer bisexual woman, if you do not know that. And I love it here. And so the gays and the girls are welcomed, babe. And honestly, with it being Pride Month, it is like the last few days of Pride Month. I needed to get a podcast up that was pride centered, honestly. So, okay, I've been gone at this point for about a month, right? And that was never the goal. Okay. I'm just going to like ruin the surprise. I was gone for a month because I thought I was going to be able to take a week off to be able to build the podcast set. So then we can have actual like video podcasts. And then, like, after some time, maybe start having like guests and things and people over. Um, and it felt a shit. So when the podcast set is actually up and running, I will go into details of that. But for now being, I'm not even going to like think about that. We're just gonna get on with the stories because y'all, let me tell you, it has been a absolute shit fest on my end trying to build this podcast. So many things went wrong, but so many things also went right. And so there's like good and bad to it. We'll go into detail once it's actually set up, but just know that more actual video content of me sitting down is coming. And then also other pieces that'll be really fun for like the audience to be interactive with is also coming with the launch of the physical podcast like set. And so I'm super duper 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 excited about it. Although it has been, difficult. I feel like difficult things are worth working towards and working for. But like I said, it is Pride Month. And so all of our stories for this episode are gay themed for the girlies and the gays. If you have a problem with the girlies and the gays, you have a problem with this podcast, please see yourself out. Okay? But this first story comes from the Reddit thread, Am I the Jerk? And it is titled, Am I the Jerk for telling my gay friend that not all straight guys are into him? Okay? Okay, let's just read and let's just get it over with. Yes, I am back again. So that means that this person, okay, starting the story off with I'm back again means that you're on this thread a lot, my guy, which means that you may be a jerk. The fact that you have to go to the public to be like, guys, am I in the fucking wrong? Seems a little weird, but it is at the time of filming this post is 1 year old. It was posted a year ago. Okay. So, yes, I am back again. For those who don't know me, I am 17 female. I have a gay friend, 17 male, since the beginning of middle school. I'm going to start at the beginning. I moved to a new district at the end of summer. So when I started middle school, I was brand spanking new and I didn't know anyone. And at the time, I was very antisocial and I still am. But unlike everyone else, my friend, we'll call him Leo, came up to me and acted like we were already friends. At the time, he made me feel comfortable and welcomed. He showed me around and got me acquainted and even made friends, and I even made friends because of him. When I first met him, he didn't hide that he was gay. And I had no problem with it because I'm bisexual and I told him that he was okay with it. I told him that and he was okay with it. Now looking back, I should have seen the red flags. Leo would always comment about what I wore and how I could have dressed and presented myself better, but I let it go thinking he was just looking out for me. At the time, I had just started wearing glasses and gotten braces, so my self-esteem was very low at the moment. Time skip to when we were in 8th grade, I had a boyfriend. We'll call him Tom. At the time, everything was good. Everything was going good between everything was going good between me and Tom, and Leo seemed okay with us and our relationship. But one day, while Tom was walking me to class, I hugged Tom goodbye and he grabbed my ass. Leo saw and commented that that's not how you do it and proceeded to grab Tom's ass. Firstly, I told Tom that it was not okay to I told Tom it was not okay to grab my ass whatsoever. Then I told Leo that it wasn't at all okay to grab someone's boyfriend's ass. 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 I'm pronouncing the word ask wrong. I've read it way too many times and now it's starting to morph. Leo told me I was being dramatic and that it was okay. Since then, whenever I would be with a guy, he would do something either inappropriate or say rude, nasty comments about me. So, after middle school, we ended up going to the same high school. We didn't stop being his friend because at the moment he was all I had and I was scared of being alone. So now that we're seniors in high school, my current boyfriend, we'll call him Jake, has met Leo and told me straight up that he does not like nor trust him. I should have listened to his concern, but I brushed them off. One day, me and Jake were hanging out in the library together when Leo came and saw us and immediately began getting between us. Jake got up, kissed me on the cheek, and told me he was going to class. Leo told me that that was odd how he just left as soon as he came. He didn't respond later that day. He didn't respond later that day. Jake told me I needed to drop Leo as a friend when I told him why he showed me tons of messages that Leo had sent him trying to flirt with him to get him to break up with me, even the picture of him in his underwear. I confronted Leo and he didn't deny it. Leo said he knew a gay person when he seen one and that he knew he dated me to get closer to him. I straight up told Leo that he was a bitch and that not every straight guy was into him. I also told him that he was manipulative and a bad friend for even doing the things he did. He called me not only transphobic, but homophobic and a gay hating bitch and left. So, am I the jerk? Oh my gosh. This is insane. Okay, let's break this down. Okay. Um, I think automatically where this started to go wrong was that at some point you said at the beginning of high school, you never stopped being his friend because you never stopped being Leo's friend because he was all you had. Okay? And that is already an issue because you should not have any form of a relationship with anyone, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a romantic relationship, um, no matter what, if it's based in the fact that like you were just afraid to be alone. You know, like there's some form of like interpersonal work that needs to go on there on why you feel uncomfortable like being alone or why you have issues like making friends. Because I think the friendship went downhill as soon as like you already like kind of put that out there and agreed that like you were really only friends with him because of the fact that um you had no one else. And that I think is shitty for both people, for you and for Leo. But to move on to Leo, I in this situation don't think you're the jerk. Okay? Because let's take the gay out of it. Okay? Let's take the gay out of it. Let's take the him being a boy. Let's take gender out of it. Let's take all of that out of it. Okay? If you had a friend, if this was a woman that did this to your boyfriend, it would still be wrong. And so just because you are a gay man does not make your actions wrong. It doesn't diminish the fact that Leo has become a horrible friend. Okay. And although in the beginning, like you guys seem like you guys were great friends in middle school and there weren't that many like issues until you got a boyfriend, then like, you guys just have grown apart at this point, you know? And so I think Leo at this point has one boundary issues. Like from him grabbing another person. Let's take gender out of it again, whether it was boy, whether it was a woman, whether it doesn't matter who it was. You touched somebody inappropriately without their consent, and that is wrong. Point blank fucking period, Leo. And so it should have been a hard stop, a hard no, a hard conversation when he grabbed your first boyfriend's butt. Okay. And I think like he was young, he made the mistake, he may not understand the concept just quite yet, right? And so, like, you're young, you do stupid things, you make mistakes. That's okay. I think people have like the ability and the capacity to be able to change. But that was already a huge red flag number one, right? Because, like, the thing about it is that if your boyfriend would have turned around and, like, physically, like, protected himself against Leo, it your boyfriend may have been in that situation where people could have labeled your boyfriend as homophobic or something of that nature, right? When in reality, it doesn't matter whether or not this was a queer person, whether or not this was a straight person, whether or not this was a man or a woman. Like, the action of itself is wrong because there was no consent around touching this person, especially in a sexual manner in a sexual area, you know? Um, and so Leo, I think, to me, is just full face in the wrong. Okay. Like, to me, this is giving that Leo is jealous that you have a boyfriend and he does not. Okay. And I think this may be like a canon event for a lot of, queer people as they like find their identity within their queerness and they get comfortable with dating and things of that nature. I do empathize with that process because it is hard and it is difficult, especially, I don't know where you're at. If you're at a town where, like, being queer is not widely accepted or there's not a lot of queer people in the space, then I can empathize with Leo on how he is feeling, but that empathy doesn't extend past his wrongdoings. And his wrongdoings are the fact that he is breaking so many personal, physical boundaries and even just like relational boundaries, like, it is so, even outside of being wrong and breaking the physical touch boundaries, he went as far to try and break up you and your boyfriend, and that is not a friend. Okay, because I would say the same thing even if it wasn't a queer person, because, like, I think sometimes in these situations people are like, well, my boyfriend isn't queer. My boyfriend's not gay. So, like, he's never going to be able to be successful. And so people are a little bit more like forgiving in the situation where it's like, okay, well, like, it's never actually going to happen because my boyfriend isn't gay and he's not interested in men. And although Leo, my best friend, is interested in men, he'll never succeed. So, like, like, I can forgive him sending these photos and stuff because, like, it'll never happen. The possibility of, like, his attempts to break us up, to cheat, would never happen. Like, I've heard stories of women like genuinely like forgiving like their gay besties for doing shit like this. But just because of the fact that their partners are not gay, right? And it's just not gonna happen. But to me, it's about the respect. Like, you don't even respect me as a person to not do that to me. Because if the roles were reversed and this wasn't a gay man, it would be fully, highly unacceptable. And so it's like, it's equality all around here. Whether you're gay or not, what you did was fucking wrong and disrespectful. And you got me absolutely highly fucked up. Okay. And the thing about it too is that, like, I want to know how many messages he sent before your boyfriend like brung it up to you. Because, like, in this situation, I would want my boyfriend to tell me immediately. Like, the first time he sent some shit that was weird or that was fucking creepy, you need to fucking tell me so I can check that shit in the ass right fucking now. Right now. We're going to put it into it right now. Because what is this about? Like, I'm a person where, like, I don't like being confrontational, but I will if I need to. But if I can avoid being confrontational, I 100% will not be confrontational with a person. But in this situation, Leo needs to be confronted. And so, do I think you're the jerk in this situation for saying not every straight man wants you? No, because that's the fucking truth. It's more likely than not that any straight man, like, genuinely doesn't want him because they are straight. And that's not, like, in my opinion, not a homophobic thing to say because it is true. And so I think Leo will eventually grow up and realize that his actions are wrong and that they were grimy and that he should not have fucking done that. Hopefully, he grows and he learns that. But this is not like gay versus straight thing. This is a, like, oh, you, like, this is like a moral thing of, like, this is wrong. Like, morally, this is wrong, no matter whether or not you are gay, whether you are straight, whether no matter what the situation is, no matter what the label is, no matter what the sexuality is, no matter what the gender is, it is wrong to send any form of like sexual messages to anyone, one with anyone out of nowhere, out of blue, without the not compliance. Compliance is not the word that I'm looking for. Without consent. But then to also put your best friend into the mix, or anybody's friend, or even somebody that you don't know. If it's a random stranger and you know that they have a significant other, it's about respecting somebody else's relationship. Okay? Point blank, period. And so, are you the jerk for saying what you said? Absolutely fuck not. Because you're better than me. I would have cussed him out because you got me fucked up, and then I would have never spoken to him again, and then I would have made other friends. Because even if this current relationship that I am in, that you are trying to like ruin, doesn't work out, I'm still okay with the fact that like I now don't have a friend with quotation marks around it, that would do some grimy shit like this to me in my life. Whether it's this relationship, whether it's the next relationship, whether it's the relationship after that, like Leo needs to learn that his actions are not fucking okay. And if that means you have to lose a friend in order to do that, by all means, good riddance, because you want a friend that's going to respect your relationship. Okay. You want friends in your life that are going to love you, that are going to support you, that are not going to do this grimy shit to you. Point blank, period. Okay. And so the first comment on there with about 9 upvotes says, hell no, you were not the jerk. It's not homophobic if you, especially when you're bisexual yourself, are putting your foot down to someone getting too close to your boyfriend, which I am glad that your boyfriend was loyal enough to show you those messages, and your gay friend deserved it. Don't get me wrong. I know it's very hard to find people the same sex, but it doesn't ever give anyone the right to get close to their friend's partner, all because I know they are gay when I see one. In parentheses, because he was quoting what Leo said. Trust me, sweetheart, as a homosexual trans male, I didn't I didn't know my high school sweetheart was gay until he confessed it to me. In other words, everyone acts differently. Just because they act a certain way, don't make them automatically gay. But anyways, again, no, you are not the jerk. I would have personally had your back on that one. 100%. I love when other queer people like can speak on queer like relationships, because it's great to come from somebody in the community to like absolutely like have the conversation and like I don't know, like clear it up from like an eternal internal source of the gay community. Um another comment also said, you were kind of a jerk. Four down votes, okay? I don't agree with this one, but I'm gonna give you guys the other side of the coin. Somebody else said, you were kind of a jerk, but it's pretty justified. Leo 100% needs to be called out for his behavior towards your boyfriend, but I think you could have gone about it better. However, it wouldn't be out of question to tell the girl that not every guy is attracted to her. Did you tell him that about other instances of behaviors? Maybe explaining that could help mend your relationship with him if that's the direction you'd want to go. Make sure to also talk about the fact that he clearly isn't respecting you and Jake's relationship. Mm, okay. And like I see the point, although I don't agree with the point. Because to me it's like if we were to take any form of sexuality, any form of gender, any form of, those qualifying factors out, it would still be grimy and it would still be wrong. So the experience of just like being gay, like I said, doesn't negate or erase the fact that your actions were wrong, point blank, period. Moving on to our next story. Our next story is titled, Friend Says That I Am Gay Because I Grew Up in a Feminine Household. My Revenge Was Sweet. All of the stories from today are coming from the Reddit story, the Reddit thread, Am I the Jerk? This one was posted about 2 years ago. And it reads, okay, for context, I am 15 and my parents got divorced when I was 4. My dad was a drug addict and left, but that's a different story. For the friend in the story, let's call him John, not his real name. For a long time, me and John had this joke going where we would walk around each other and call each other gay as a joke. Not serious or to offend anyone, of course. John's grades began to drop and he began to commit school offenses. My mom told me to stop being friends with him because he was a bad influence. I decided to stop being friends with him, so he goes behind my back and texts my other friend, let's call him Bob, also not his real name. John texts Bob insults about me while I was on the phone with Bob. Bob tells me this and begins to read the passage that John wrote. John says he's just mad because he is gay. My dad says that he doesn't seem like a boy or a man. He only acts like this because he lives in a feminine household. Over the phone, I became enraged. The next day at school, I filled out a counselor notification form, put on the waterworks for the counselor. The counselor then called John and began his rant. I didn't see John for a week after that because he apparently got suspended. Am I the jerk? You're petty. You're petty, and I like low-key kind of love that for you. Um, I don't think you're the jerk though. I think John has some form of eternal homophobia from the jump. And clearly the household that he is growing up with supports that. And unfortunately, your mom is correct in this situation. One thing that I will always say, as someone whose mom is not here with us anymore, my mom has passed away. If you guys do not know, parents are always right when they say that that person is not your friend. Okay, and that is like a blessing that I took for granted when I did have my mom because she 100% was right. Okay, every girlfriend, every guy friend that I had that she said that's not your friend ended up being a horrible fucking person to me. Okay, and so when your mom, I think at 12, 13, especially middle school, high school, like you don't want to listen to your parents, you don't want to hear them out, but baby, they're probably right because they've probably been there, done that, they know the signs, right? And if you have like a healthy household and a healthy parent like child relationship, like listen to your parents when they tell you that somebody is not your fucking friend. And so your mom is right. This boy is a bad influence on you. He's clearly being fed this like misogynistic, homophobic rhetoric at home where like his dad, his parents aren't emotionally like mature enough to even understand like the nuances of actually being a queer or a gay person and just being a nice person. And it sounds like that's exactly what you are in this situation, OP. You're a nice person, you grew up around women, you've learned to respect women, and like that's a good thing. Don't let this little shithead of a friend, hopefully ex-friend, tell you anything otherwise, okay? He's upset that his grades are failing. He probably doesn't have that great of a home life. We don't know that. I'm inferring based off of that. But in this situation, I definitely think your mom is right. You're not the jerk though. I think your friendship is over. Like you and honestly Bob should not be friends with this person anymore. Um or maybe even after this situation, if they are open to it, which it doesn't sound like this person's going to be open to it, because like once you're raised in like a household where like you had these like misogynistic thought processes and that's the way that you think, he's probably not going to be like open to having a conversation about it. I think maybe one last like lifeline that you can throw out to this friend is being like, hey, I know that situation sucked, but like if you want to talk it out and genuinely talk about it and really try and work on being friends, then like we can do that. And I'm willing to give that like lifeline to you and really figure out what's going on because it sounds like his grades are slipping. And maybe that may be out of character for him. And so he doesn't know how to like deal with that. Or something maybe is going on at home, which is causing his grades to slip. And a lot of the times, like that is the case. Like I know a lot of teachers will say that um like students' grades will slip depending on how like healthy or welcoming their home lives are because like as much as like parents don't want to admit it, like kids do see and hear the things that are going on in the household and whether or not you think they're affecting them, they probably are. And so maybe there's more going on at home. And if he's ready to talk about it, you can extend that lifeline. But if not, maybe just keep the door open for him for a year and be like, hey, bro, like I'm gonna just like take a few steps back. But if like whenever you're ready to talk about it, like leave the door open, right? Because you guys are so young. I would hate to just be like, throw this friend out and like go on a real hard like turn tangent for that. But because you guys are so young, like people can still grow and people can still change. But in this situation, I definitely do not think you are the jerk. And one of the highest rated replies on this Reddit story is not the asshole, or not the jerk. They said not the asshole. Wrong thread, but not the jerk. My husband is one of five, and he is the only boy, and his dad left when he was 6. Being brought up in a house full of women made him a lot more respectful and in tune with women. He also never pees on the seat or leaves it up. LOL. I can talk to him about my periods, and he's a great listener. Not saying this is exclusive to men brought up in households full of women, just how my husband is. And somebody responded to that comment and said, I agree. Before we married, my husband and I were backpacking in the mountains. Unfortunately, I started my period overnight and needed a shower. My now husband of 40 years didn't try and shame me and was a great sport. Even though we had to hike down the mountain, drive for an hour, shower, drive another hour, hike back up the mountain 3 hours, that was the moment I knew he was the man I would marry. He has always been a more empathetic person, probably because his mother and 4 sisters. Oh my goodness, that's so sweet. And other people were like, why would he try and shame you? You've never dealt with a shitty man before. Like, I think that story is so sweet. I'm not like a hiker in a hiker by any sort of means, but if I was in the situation and my period started and we were hiking up a trail and it was a 3-hour hike down and a 3-hour hike back up, baby, that would have been the end of the hike. As soon as it was like, oh, we got to shower, we got to go down, period would have been like, okay, we're done. We're done, right? Like, we can be done. We can be done. Like, we can be done, dog. Like, we don't have to hike back up, you know? Because, like, I can't imagine being in the woods hiking on my period and my cramps and my uterus is literally like shedding and falling out of my body. Like, the hike would be over. I'm so sorry. The hike would be over. And that's why I'm not a hiker, okay? I'm not committed. But in this situation, I think we can all agree that OP, no, you are not the jerk. You're not the jerk. You seem like a good person. Like I said, maybe leave the door open and just, have the conversation and hope that, John circles back around, grows up, and realizes that, what he said was a little wrong. Not a little, was wrong. But moving on to our next story. Our next story is titled, Am I the Jerk for Telling People I'm Not Gay? I'm a teenage boy. I like things that normal boys don't like. I like sling bags in the color pink and purple. I wear jewelry and I love female artists. And I don't walk like a dude, people say. My classmates make rumors about me being gay, and I didn't really care because I know I'm better than them. And in a few weeks after my 8th grade spring break, my mother called me and asked if I was gay. I said no, I'm straight, and when I asked why she said that, she said someone wanted to know. Now, it wasn't until after a few months she asked me, and it made me extremely upset because people were talking about me. So I made a post on Snapchat stating that I was not gay, and that was a mistake. It was Mother's Day, and me and my dad were gonna buy my stepmom gifts and breakfast. That was until my grandmother called and asked my father if I was gay. My father, being overprotective, started getting upset and asked her why she would say that. She said that someone found a post saying that he wasn't gay. My father got more upset and asked me, what did I post on TikTok? He didn't know what app I posted it on. And I said I didn't post anything on TikTok. He got mad and started calling my grandmother a liar. He stormed outside and pulled up the post on Snapchat that she must have been talking about. When I showed him, he calmed down and hung up the phone and asked me in a calm tone, why would I make that post? I said it's because I wanted the bullying to stop, and my dad asked how did my grandmother know about the post if it was on Snapchat. I said, I don't know. Turns out my cousin, who follows me on Snapchat, told her mother, who told my grandmother, and when my dad found out about this by going through my phone, he was livid. So he went to my stepmother and told her what happened, and my stepmother was upset too. Then my grandma called my dad again and asked again if I was gay. I just started to cry because of this, because I felt like it was my fault if I don't make the post in the first place and this wouldn't have happened. A few hours later, my stepmom and my father confronted me and said that there was nothing wrong with me or being gay. But I feel like I did not make the post, it would have made this easier. So am I the jerk? Okay, so I think this was written 2 years ago. I think when Opie wrote this, it was in like an emotional full state, so it was kind of like messy in the way that he wrote it. Okay, but what essentially happened is that at school, people started a rumor that he was gay. Okay, and then multiple people started asking him, from his mom, from friends to people all around, just continued to ask him if he was gay, which is weird from the start. Let's just start there, because why are we obsessed with this boy's sexuality? It is nobody's fucking business. This town, everybody, the school, your family, everybody is weird and it's giving homophobic, okay? But then it went on. So then after the bullying and people kept continuously asking, he posted on Snapchat and said, guys, I'm not gay. Please stop asking XYZ, blah, 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 blah. Right? His cousin then goes and tells his grandma about the post that he made. Grandma is convinced that this boy may be gay, goes to ask his dad. Dad decides, I'm going to protect my son. He's not gay, blah, blah, blah. Kept asking the question. Now the question is annoying because everybody keeps fucking asking this question, and I keep telling you guys I'm not fucking gay. And now we're at a place where um OP feels bad because it's now has bled into his family and familial arguments based on the fact that he made a post saying that he is not gay. Okay, and he's asking now, am I the jerk essentially for making the Snapchat post so people would leave me the fuck alone? No. Okay? No. You are not the jerk. This entire story, this town, this family, like I said earlier, is giving homophobic. Okay? It's giving everybody is so fucking bored in their normal lives that they have nothing else better to do than to speculate about somebody's sexuality when it is none of your business. It is giving that this town is conservative, this family is conservative, the space is conservative, and so it is small town gossip that, like, oh my god, he walks a little different. He's not like your stereotypical man, and like that's all they fucking have to talk about, and it's getting exhausting. Um, I do not think at any point you are the jerk for this situation. I think your dad is a W dad though, because he's like he and stepmom are like, it's okay if you are, right? And so I think your inner family that you are like surrounded by, your mom, I mean your dad, your stepdad, your dad and your stepmom are like good people and like W's in this story. But why is it anybody else's business even if you were fucking gay? Even if you were gay and you didn't want to come out and you weren't ready to tell people that, it's never okay for somebody to have to force you to come out as being gay by over asking the question 1,001 times. And I think old heads, like the older generation, sometimes think that that's the way to go about it, by trying to pry, and they think that if they pry, if they annoy, then eventually you'll just like admit it, and then they can be like, I told you so. And that's what they want in this situation. But truly, it's nobody's fucking business. So no, I'm not gay. Point blank fucking period. And if they ask you again, be like, what did I tell you last time you asked this question? And let them answer their own question and then be like, exactly. So stop asking me the fucking question. Okay? Um, One of the top voted replies to this story is one question. Whose business is it besides yours? People who ask about this are just nosy. 115 upvotes. 100%. And somebody else then responded, the only people who should care if I'm straight or gay are people who want to sleep with me. Say that and then look them up and down with a clear no thank you look on your face. Oh, Reddit's messy. Reddit is messy and confrontational. Another response to this says, there's nothing here that would make you a jerk. Peer pressure is tough and often very unfair. You're free to like whatever you want, and it doesn't have to mean anything other than liking that thing. I'm a straight guy, and my favorite color is purple. I'm glad that your family is there for you. Somebody else responded to that comment and said, there's no wavelength of light that corresponds to purple. It has to be made of mixed opposite ends of the spectrum, which is why it's the coolest color. It literally has more color. Okay, we didn't care about the color scope of purple and the science behind purple. But I think an overall the overall space of like the response to this Reddit story is people kind of having the conversation that like they also were bullied for being different. And I think when you're in like a conservative, like small town, which I don't know where this story is based out of, where this post is based out of, but when you're in towns like that where like everybody is the same, everybody has like a very small hometown minded thought process, never wants to leave their hometown. Different can be seen as weird, and people are inquisitive about it and nosy about it when it's like it's none of your business. But that's because they don't know any better. And so it's a weird space to be in. But for OP, it's like the only advice that I would have for OP is to build up such a confidence in yourself and your being and who you are as a person, to where like even if you do decide you want to explore being a queer person, like you are confident in yourself that you can do that and you can make the decision when you're ready to make the decision. But if you 100% know that you are straight, just because you are different, just because you don't like the stereotypical small-minded being a boy stereotype things, it's nothing to like be ashamed about. And I made a TikTok about this, to be completely honest, and it went pretty solid, like micro viral. It's over 100,000 views. If you guys want to follow me on TikTok, you're more than welcome to. It's at Eva Joelle underscore, I think, on TikTok. Right now, I'm on a Love Island binge, to be completely honest. I'm just talking shit on Love Island on TikTok. But if you want to follow me on TikTok, you can. But I made a TikTok about this where, like, straight men tend to be very, very insecure or bothered by non overly male, overly like straight men, you know? And they try and use gay as an insult when in reality, like, that man is probably just like the nicest, sweetest, most empathetic man that you could ever meet. And the only insult that a super duper straight, like homophobic man could say is that like he's probably gay. And it's like, he's not gay, he just got drip. And honestly, that TikTok was flooded with a subset of men like the poster, like OP in this story, being like, I just took that I had drip, or like I could dress well, or that I dress well, or that, sorry, I opened my TikTok because I was about to start reading the comments. That I took it as that I have drip, or that like I dress well, or that like I'm a good person. And I'm so glad that, oh my God, I dropped my phone. I'm so glad that that post brung a lot of men that were like, my life feels validated by this. I'm glad that like there are women like you out there that like think like this, and that like don't like that appreciate like an empathetic, like a nice person, like a nice man that like respects a woman. And I was just in the comments being like, hell yeah, like hyping all these guys up that were just like, I get called gay all the time. And women, it also brought a subset of women to that post that were like, I attest to this. It is probably the best man that you've ever met, because I married that guy. I married the guy with the gay allegations. And I'm like, absolutely, that's exactly how I feel. I like my men just a little gay. Just a little gay. And one thing I will say is that my favorite ex-boyfriend was a bisexual firefighter, okay? He was great. Could toss me around, bench pressed like 350. Dog was phenomenal, okay? When LA was on fire, he was like, let's go, let me take you out to dinner. Like, he wanted to spin the block. I almost did. I almost spent the block on the gay bisexual firefighter. He's not listening to this, but honestly, if LA wasn't on fire and he just so happened to be in LA and not in the Bay, I'll take you up on a dinner, baby. Like, but no, that post brung such validation to a subset of, I think, genuinely very, very sweet men. And I hope that they never fucking change. And I hope OP never changes, because the people around him are nosy and annoying, right? um, have such a confidence in yourself that no matter what these people say, no matter what rumors they start because they're fucking bored and they have nothing else better to do with their lives, you know who you are. You know who you are as a person, and nothing that no one else can say will change that. So that brings us to the end of this week's podcast. And thank you guys so much for being patient as I try and build this podcast studio, because the goal is to build the podcast studio, have it be decorative, nice, beautiful, and we get an editor that can edit these podcast um, clips down, like not the clips, but edit the podcast down to be like digestible and you know, watchable, to where I'm able to kind of push out these podcast episodes faster. Because honestly, the one thing that really slows me down when it comes to like podcast episodes is the editing process. Like, it takes so much time for me to edit. I'm not the fastest of editors, especially with the video ones, because I do want to throw the story on the screen so you guys can read along and like have something to look at and stuff, and make it just entertaining for you guys to watch. So thank you so much. We're going to try and be back on our normal Monday upload schedule from here on out, whether they're audio or video. But, hopefully we have the podcasts set built sooner than later, and we get more like actual video content. But thank you guys so much for watching, for listening to this podcast so far. Please make sure to give the video a big thumbs up, a like, a comment, a subscribe. It helps the podcast be found and grow, and we can grow this channel together. Also, if you just want to listen to the podcast so you can lock your phone, you can clean your house, you can drive to work, the podcast is available wherever you find podcasts. So Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, anywhere where podcasts can be listened to, it is published there. So thank you guys so much for listening. I can't wait to hear what you guys think about these stories. Happy Pride to those that celebrate. We rocking with the LGBT. Fuck out my way, who see me? We rocking with the LGBT. And I will see you guys on next week's episode. Bye. Love you guys. See you next week.